welcome back. I'm John, old YouTuber. Let's continue reading my Wikipedia PDF. I have just downloaded a fresh copy of the GeForce and Intel graphic technology. It's 10:30 and I did pay my bills yesterday, Monday the 3rd. I did pay my rent apartment and $1,000 to my debt. So tomorrow, Wednesday, I will have a bit money on my MasterCard credit again. I should try every day I should try and read one or two, because if not I will never get finished. I have to think about buying a new one, because I only got 1,000 gigabyte left soon. I just buy it like 1 month ago, so like every second month, because I'm recording so much crazy number of videos. Every 2 months I have to buy this 4,000 or 5,000 gigabytes. Because I'm recording like 1,000 videos on like 2 months. So I need a minute. Speaker is 50. I need a minute to do myself ready. And I have many hundreds of PDF I would like to read. But I can only read one by one. And the power on the camcorder is a bit low, so it'd be nice if I can read this today.
GeForce 2022.svg Nvidia RTX 4090 Founders Edition, Verpackung, Smarslow.png GeForce RTX 4090 Founders Edition manufacturer Nvidia introduced August 31, 1999 type consumer graphics cards. GeForce is a brand of graphics processing units, GPUs, designed by Nvidia. As of the GeForce 40 series, there have been 18 iterations of the design. The first GeForce products were discrete GPUs designed for add-on graphics boards, intended for the high-margin PC gaming market, and later diversification of the product line covered all tiers of the PC graphics market, ranging from cost-sensitive 1. GPUs integrated on motherboards, to mainstream add-in retail boards. Most recently, GeForce technology has been introduced into Nvidia's line of embedded application processors, designed for electronic handhelds and mobile handsets. With respect to discrete GPUs, found in add-in graphics boards, Nvidia's GeForce and AMD's Radeon GPUs are the only remaining competitors in the high-end market. GeForce CPUs are very dominant in the general-purpose graphics processor unit (GPU) market thanks to their proprietary CUDA architecture. 2. GPU is expected to expand GPU functionality beyond the traditional rasterization of 3 graphics, to turn it into a high-performance computing device able to execute arbitrary programming code in the same way a CPU does, but with different strengths, highly parallel execution of straightforward calculations, and weaknesses, worse performance for complex branching code. Name origin. The GeForce name originated from a contest held by Nvidia in early 1999 called Name That Chip. The company called out to the public to name the successor to the Riva TNT2 line of graphics boards. There were over 12,000 entries received and 7 winners received a Riva TNT2 Ultra graphics card as award. 3. 4. Brian Burke, senior PR manager at Nvidia, told Maximum PC in 2002 that GeForce originally stood for Geometry Force, since GeForce 256 was the first GPU for personal computers to calculate the transform and lighting geometry, offloading that function from the CPU. 5. Graphics processor generations. GeForce 256. GeForce 2 series. Launched in April 2000, the first GeForce 2, NV15, was another high-performance graphics chip. Nvidia moved to a twin texture processor per pipeline, 4x2, design, doubling texture fill rate per clock compared to GeForce 256. Later, Nvidia released the GeForce 2 MX, NV11, which offered performance similar to the Generations timeline. 1999 GeForce 2562000, GeForce 2 Series 2001, GeForce 3 Series 2002, GeForce 4 Series 2003, GeForce FX Series 2004, GeForce 6 Series 2005, GeForce 7 Series 2006, GeForce 8 Series 2007, 2008, GeForce 9 Series, GeForce 200 Series 2009, GeForce 100 Series, GeForce 300 Series 2010, GeForce 400 Series, GeForce 500 Series 2011, 2012, GeForce 600 Series 2013, GeForce 700 Series 2014, GeForce 800M Series, GeForce 900 Series 2015, 2016, GeForce 10 Series 2017, 2018, GeForce 20 Series 2019, GeForce 16 Series 2020, GeForce 30 Series 2021, 2022, GeForce 40 Series. GeForce 256, but at a fraction of the cost. The MX was a compelling value in the low forward/mid-range market segments and was popular with OEM PC manufacturers and users alike. The GeForce 2 Ultra was the high-end model in this series. GeForce 3 series. Launched in February 2001. The GeForce 3, NV20, introduced programmable vertex and pixel shaders to the GeForce family and to consumer-level graphics accelerators. It had good overall performance and shader support, making it popular with enthusiasts, although it never hit the mid-range price point. The NV2, developed for the Microsoft Xbox game console, is a derivative of the GeForce 3. GeForce 4 series. Launched in February 2002, the then high-end GeForce 40 NV25 was mostly a refinement to the GeForce 3. The biggest advancements included enhancements to anti-aliasing capabilities, an improved memory controller, a second vertex shader, and a manufacturing process size reduction to increase clock speeds. Another member of the GeForce 4 family, the budget GeForce 4 MX, was based on the GeForce 2 with the addition of some features from the GeForce 40. It targeted the value segment of the market and lacked pixel shaders. Most of these models used the AGP4 interface, but a few began the transition to AGP8. GeForce FX series. Launched in 2003. The GeForce FX, NV30, was a huge change in architecture compared to its predecessors. The GPU was designed not only to support the new shader Model 2 specification but also to perform well on older titles. However, initial models like the GeForce FX 5800 Ultra suffered from weak floating point shader performance and excessive heat, which required infamously noisy two-slot cooling solutions. Products in this series carry the 5000 model number, as it is the 5th generation of the GeForce, though Nvidia marketed the cards as GeForce FX instead of GeForce 5 to show off the dawn of cinematic rendering. GeForce 6 series. Launched in April 2004, the GeForce 6 NV40 added shader model 3.0 support to the GeForce family while correcting the weak floating point shader performance of its predecessor. It also implemented high dynamic range imaging and introduced SLI, scalable link interface, and pure video capability, integrated partial hardware MPEG-2, VC1, Windows Media Video, and H.264 decoding and fully accelerated video post-processing. GeForce 7 series. The 7th generation GeForce G70/NV47 was launched in June 2005 and was the last Nvidia video card series that could support the AGP bus. The design was a refined version of GeForce 6, with the major improvements being a widened pipeline and an increase in clock speed. The GeForce 7 also offers new transparency supersampling and transparency multisampling anti-aliasing modes, TSAA and TMAA. These new anti-aliasing modes were later enabled for the GeForce 6 series as well. The GeForce 7950G featured the highest performance GPU with an AGP interface in the Nvidia line. This era began the transition to the PCI Express interface. A 128-bit, 8ROP variant of the 7800 GTX, called the RSX Reality Synthesizer, is used as the main GPU in the Sony PlayStation 3. GeForce 8 series. Released on the 8th of November, 2006, the 8th generation GeForce, originally called G80, was the first ever GPU to fully support DirectX 3D10. Manufactured using a 90nm process and built around the new Islamic architecture, it implemented the unified shader model. Initially just the 8800 GTX model was launched, while the GTS variant was released months into the product line's life, and it took nearly 6 months for mid-range and OEM/mainstream cards to be integrated into the 8 series. The die shrink down to 65nm and a revision to the G80 design, codenamed G92, were implemented into the 8 series with the 8800 GS, 8800 GT and 8800 GTS 512, first released on the 29th of October, 2007, almost one whole year after the initial G80 release. GeForce 9 series and 100 series. The first product was released on the 21st of February, 2008. 6, not even 4 months older than the initial G92 release. All 9 series designs are simply revisions to existing late 8 series products. The 9800 GX2 uses 2 G92 GPUs, as used in later 8800 cards, in a dual PCB configuration while still only requiring a single PCI Express 16X slot. The 9800 GX2 utilizes 2 separate 256-bit memory buses, one for each GPU and its respective 512 megabytes of memory, which equates to an overall of 1 gigabyte of memory on the card, although the SLI configuration of the chips necessitates mirroring the frame buffer between the two chips, thus effectively halving the memory performance of a 256-bit /512 MB configuration. The later 9800 GTX features a single G92 GPU, 256-bit data bus, and 512 megabytes of GDDR3 memory. 7. Prior to the release, No concrete information was known except that the officials claimed the next generation products had close to 1 TFLOPS processing power, with the GPU cores still being manufactured in the 65nm process, and reports about Nvidia downplaying the significance of Direct3D 10.1.8. In March 2009, several sources reported that Nvidia had quietly launched a new series of GeForce products, namely the GeForce 100 series, which consists of rebadged 9 series parts. 9, 10, 11. GeForce 100 series products were not available for individual purchase. 1. GeForce 200 series and 300 series. Based on the GT200 graphics processor consisting of 1.4 billion transistors, codenamed Tesla, the 200 series was launched on the 16th of June, 2008. 12. The next generation of the GeForce series takes the card naming scheme in a new direction, by replacing the series number, such as 8800 for 8 series cards, with the GTX or GTS suffix, which used to go at the end of card names, denoting their rank among other similar models, and then adding model numbers such as 260 and 280 after that. The series features the new GT200 core on a 65nm die. 13. The first products were the GeForce GTX 260 and the more expensive GeForce GTX 280. 14. The GeForce 310 was released on the 27th of November, 2009, which is a rebrand of GeForce 210. 15. 16. The 300 series cards are rebranded DirectX 10.1 compatible GPUs from the 200 series, which were not available for individual purchase. GeForce 400 series and 500 series. On the 7th of April, 2010, Nvidia released 17. The GeForce GTX 470 and GTX 480, the first cards based on the new Femi architecture, codenamed GF100. They were the first Nvidia GPUs to utilize 1 GB or more of GDDR5 memory. The GTX 470 and GTX 480 were heavily criticized due to high power use, high temperatures, and very loud noise that were not balanced by the performance offered, even though the GTX 480 was the fastest DirectX 11 card as of its introduction. In November 2010, Nvidia released a new flagship GPU based on an enhanced GF100 architecture, GF110, called the GTX 580. It featured higher performance, less power utilization, heat and noise than the preceding GTX 480. This GPU received much better reviews than the GTX 480. Nvidia later also released GTX 590, which packs 2 GF110 GPUs on a single card. GeForce 600 series, 700 series and 800M series. Asus Nvidia GeForce GTX 650T, a PCI Express 3.0 16 graphics card. In September 2010, Nvidia announced that the successor to Fermi microarchitecture would be the Kepler microarchitecture manufactured with the TSMC 28nm fabrication process. Earlier, Nvidia had been contracted to supply their top-end GK110 cores for use in Oak Ridge National Laboratory's Titan supercomputer, leading to a shortage of GK110 cores. After AMD launched their own annual refresh in early 2012, the Radeon HD 7000 series, Nvidia began the release of the GeForce 600 series in March 2012. The GK104 core, originally intended for their mid-range segment half their lineup, became the flagship GTX 680. It introduced significant improvements in performance, heat, and power efficiency compared to the Femi architecture and closely matched AMD's flagship Radeon HD 7970. It was quickly followed by the dual GK104 GTX 690 and the GTX 670, which featured only a slightly cut-down GK104 core and was very close in performance to the GTX 680. With the GTX Titan, Nvidia also released GPU Boost 2.0, which would allow the GPU clock speed to increase indefinitely until a user-set temperature limit was